Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, Assalamu alaikum and welcome back in lecture number 21. Our today's topic is very important. It's kind of bonds. You might have heard about bonds, a security which is normally being traded into the financial markets. But when we replicate that bond in Islamic financial system, we have sukuk. So you can say the Islamic bond is sukuk. So this is our today's topic and very important and interesting as well. So before we go into details, let me remind you about our previous lecture. We studied the following concept of Islamic investment funds. So the word Islamic investment funds mean that there are certain companies, mostly the banks, they operate different types of funds, and using that funds, they invest into different areas like stocks of different companies, they purchase commodities, they involve in trading activities, and they generate profits. So then there are certain principles of Islamic investment funds, and normally the principles, they are same, that the activities should be Sharia compliant, capital should qualify all the Sharia compliance modes, and then there are different modes of investment of these funds. So what we studied in our last lecture, that was about the equity funds, ijara funds, commodity, murabha, bay'ad-dain, and mixed funds. So in equity funds, we studied it in a greater detail because there were so many things to be considered. For example, when the funds, they want to invest into the stocks of particular companies, because equities means stocks or shares of the companies. So the companies where the investment is intended, so those companies must be operating some halal activities. So their income must be halal. So the sources of income should be halal, but we see that main business of the companies is halal, but still they have sources of income which are not allowed by Sharia. For example, majority of the companies, they deposit their surplus amounts into the interest-bearing accounts, or they invest into interest-bearing securities. So they derive income out of that investment. So the scholars, they have consensus that such type of income should not be more than 5% of the total income. So if the total income, in the total income, proportion of haram sources of income is more than 5%, so the fund managers should avoid investing into securities, into stocks of such type of companies. And also there was a condition that the main business of the company should be halal, and it should be less than 30% in haram activities. And there was a consensus of the scholars that the main activities of the business should be halal activities, main investments of the business should be halal investments, but if they are not Sharia compliant, so their volume in the total investment should be less than 30%. And the logic has been derived from a hadith of Prophet ﷺ reported in Tirmidhi, that 1/3 is a significant amount. So using that hadith, the scholars, they have consensus that 30% is not 1/3, so it is not a significant amount. So the investments of the companies where the funds are going to be invested, those investments should be less than 30% in the activities which are not Sharia compliant. But the other condition still remains the same, that is, the income from haram sources should be less than 5% or equal to 5%. And then we studied the concept of ijara funds, that the funds are pooled by the subscribers, and the fund manager purchases an asset with the objective to lease the asset to the user. So the usufruct of the asset is leased out, and for that rentals are received, and those rentals, they form the income of the fund. And the certificate holders, that is the subscribers of that fund, they are given a certificate which is normally called as sukuk. So sukuk is our today's topic as well. And the commodity funds, the funds when they are used to purchase commodities with the purpose to resell them in the market to earn a profit, and that profit is distributed among the partners, among the subscribers. And also murabha funds, where the funds are used to purchase an asset with an objective to sell it again with some profit into it on installment basis. And then by ad-dain, which is sale of debt, and sale of debt is not allowed under Islamic economic system. However, some of the Malaysian scholars, they think sale of debt is allowed. But according to Islamic Fiqh Academy of Jeddah, unanimously Muslim scholars, which they have representatives from all over the Muslim world, they say that by ad-dain or sale of debt or discounting of bills receivable or discounting of notes receivable, this is not allowed under Islamic economic system because it constitutes sale of debt and there can be the element of interest into it, so this is not allowed. And the mixed funds, when the funds they are used for different investment purposes. For example, the funds can be used for investing into stocks, for purchasing an asset for the ijara purpose, or purchasing an asset for leasing purpose, or purchasing the commodities as well. So when all these different types of ventures they are being carried out with that fund, so it will be known as mixed fund. So in mixed funds, the assets will be liquid and non-liquid as well. And also we discussed that the certificates of these funds are tradable in the secondary market, but there is a condition to it. If the assets of the company they are liquid assets, then they don't qualify to be traded into the market because these certificates represent the liquid assets. Liquid assets means cash and cashable securities, the securities which we can convert into cash. And the non-liquid or illiquid assets, they are the tangible assets. So for these certificates to be traded into the secondary market or in the financial market, the illiquid assets must be more than 50% or at least 51% of the total assets. So if they are 51% in the total assets, then the scholars they have recommended that, they have allowed that such type of securities can be traded into the market. And then there were different challenges being faced by the Islamic funds, and also if we convert those challenges into opportunities, we can utilize the funds and it can help us in the economy. And the learning outcomes for today's lecture are that you will be able to understand the concept of sukuk regarding their definition, their introduction, how they operate, and objectives of sukuk, that how they help different companies, organizations, and also the governments as well. And then Sharia basis of sukuk issue, what type of products, what kind of sukuk arrangements are there, and do they have any Sharia legitimacy. And then basics of sukuk, and then sukuk in secondary market, that what is the status of these sukuks into the secondary market, or whether they are tradable or not. And then sukuk guiding principles and advantages of sukuk to both issuer and the investor. Issuer is the one who is going to utilize the funds which are being raised out of the selling of these sukuks, and the parties involved, then you should be able to understand the popular sukuks, which are, for example, sukuk al-murabaha, sukuk al-ijara, sukuk al-musharka, and we have a list of that, sukuk for istisna, sukuk for salam products, and then the sukuk growth in the world. Sukuk, they are quite popular in the world and they have phenomenal growth all around the world. And then there are certain controversies in different types of sukuks. Scholars, they have their different point of view about the sukuks. Some think they should not be allowed, and some of the scholars they think they should be allowed. And there are certain differences between the sukuk and the conventional bond, that is Islamic bond and conventional bond. So as far as the conventional bonds are concerned, I think every one of us is familiar with that. These are the securities which are traded into the market, which are sold in the market by the corporations, by the governments, by the sovereign entities to raise funds, to arrange finances. So the bonds, they are redeemed at their face value, but they have an interest rate on it, and the interest is paid semi-annually or annually, or whatever arrangement has been mentioned on the agreement when the investments are made in the bond securities. And now we come towards the definition of sukuk. Sukuk is the Arabic name of a financial certificate. it has been derived from the word suk. Suk is the singular and sukuk is plural. And it's an Islamic alternative to conventional interest-bearing bonds. In conventional economic system, we have interest-bearing bonds. The interest is paid, as I mentioned earlier, whereas in case of bonds, ideally the bonds or the sukuk are sold in the market to raise funds for a particular project. So the finances raised by selling sukuk, they are invested to purchase a particular asset. So they are asset-based investments. They are the asset-based securities. And sukuk is a trust certificate in which investor returns are derived from legal or beneficial ownership of asset. So when the finances are raised by selling sukuks from the investors, so that those finances, they are used to purchase any asset or to construct any asset. So by the use of that asset, benefits or the reward are derived from that. So that reward in the form of fee or rental or profits, it is distributed among the sukuk holders according to the proportion of their ownership into the total funds. So this is the mechanism, and this is the difference, that bonds, they are issued by the conventional financial market, and they are traded into the financial market, and they are the debt-based instrument. Whoever invests into sukuks, actually they have a claim on the person who are raising funds. So it is a kind of debt. So against that debt, the investors, they are receiving an interest. So the income here is based on interest income. Whereas in case of Islamic financial system, the sukuks, they are asset-based instruments, and assets, they are created. So there is another objective that is also achieved using sukuk, that is, some assets, they are created, some value addition is there into the economy. So some positive ventures, some real economic ventures, they are carried out, and it creates jobs, it creates profits, and it has benefits more than the bonds. So these are issued by the Islamic financial institutes, or from the corporations, also from the governments, so based on the rules of Sharia. So, and this is, they create assets which create benefits, profits for the investors. And introduction of sukuk. Now let's see how they operate. Sukuk refers to securitization, a process in which ownership of the underlying asset is transferred to large number of investors. So with these sukuks, an asset is purchased, and in that particular asset, so different investors, they make investment and they become owners. For example, if this is an asset, so this asset is purchased through an investment of different people. There can be countless investors into this venture. So an asset is created, or an asset is purchased using these sukuk funds, and each of the investors, they are the owner into that asset, and these certificates are equal in denomination, and they are redeemable after a certain time period, and they represent an undivided share in the ownership of the asset. So here, the asset cannot be divided according to the ownership of the investors. Asset is undivided, and all the investors, they have ownership into that undivided asset. So the sukuks, they have a great potential in transforming an asset's future cash flows into present cash flows. So with the investments of the people, the owner of that asset can sell the asset to the sukuk investors, and they can generate their cash flows. And the sukuk may be issued on existing as well as specific asset that may become available at a future date. So the sukuk, these funds can be raised, and these securities can be sold to the investors for a asset which is already in existence, or for an asset which is going to be manufactured or which is going to be produced in future. So what are the objectives of a sukuk? Islamic bonds or sukuks, they facilitate the corporations, the businesses, and the governments to raise capital in a Sharia compliant mode, and they also provide an opportunity to the businesses to expand their investment base, and also to the investors as well, that the investors, they can invest into different type of assets, into different kind of businesses where the potential of profit is higher, and that the investment is also secure. And the schools, they also offer investment opportunities to new groups. For example, there are many groups of people who want to invest somewhere, invest their deposits, their savings, but if they invest into bonds, they are not allowed under Islamic financial system. So for their long-term investment, schools are the best substitute. And now we have some Sharia legitimacy, and it can be derived from the core activities of the sukuk funds. So when the sukuk funds are raised for equity purposes, then the conditions of musharaka and mudarba will apply. So whatever is the legitimacy of musharaka and mudarba, that will apply into this situation as well. So because equities are raised to raise capital, to make investments into different activities, so the funds, they are used either on the mudarba basis or on a musharaka basis. When the initiator or the originator of the sukuk, when they invest their own capital along with the capital raised from the sukuk, from the investors, then there will be a musharaka agreement, and that musharaka must qualify all the Sharia compliance and all the requirements of Sharia. And if the capital is provided only by the sukuk purchasers or the subscribers, then the initiator or the originator performs as a manager, so there will be a mudarba arrangement between them. So that partnership will be based on the Rabbul Mal and the Mudarib concept. So, and in both cases, the legitimacy of musharaka and mudarba will apply from Sharia concept. And then the investment can be salam based. The sukuk funds can be used using the salam investments. So in that case, salam rules will apply. And if they are used for ijara purposes, then the rules of ijara would apply. And there are certain basics of sukuk. While a conventional bond is a promise to repay a loan, sukuk constitutes partial ownership in a debt. So whereas when we see the conventional bond, it is a promise, it is a kind of document, a kind of agreement which provides an assurity that for that face value, the holder of this bond will be paid an amount. Whereas sukuk, they constitute a partial ownership in different ventures. For example, if it is a sukuk al-murabaha, then it is a kind of debt because the asset was purchased and it has been sold to the client, to the final user, and there is a promise from that user to make the payments. So these are the debt claims. So the sukuk holders, they are partners into that debt. They are the owners of that debt. And then they are owners into the assets when it is a sukuk al-ijara, because when the funds are raised using sukuk and it is used to purchase an asset with the purpose to lease it out, so that asset is in the ownership of that sukuk operators. So the sukuk funds are the owner of that asset. So there is an ownership and prorated ownership for all the sukuk holders. And then they are owners into the project when there is a sukuk al-istisna, when the arrangement of the sukuk is for istisna purpose, something is going to be manufactured. So in that case, there is a project and the sukuk holders, they are partial owners into that project. And when there is a business conducted based on musharaka, so in that case, sukuk holders, they are owners into that business. And also they are owner into the investment if it is sukuk al-istismar. So these are different arrangements of ownership, a partial ownership. It may be a debt in case of murabha, it can be an asset in case of ijara, it can be a project in case of istisna, and it can be business in case of musharaka, and it can be any investment into Sharia compliant businesses. Now these sukuk investments, they have their returns. So these returns can be in the form of profits, in the form of rentals, or it can be in the form of dividends if they are invested into some stocks. So these returns, they are distributed among the sukuk holders, and it can replicate the interest income which is being derived out of the bonds by the bondholders. And one more thing is that these sukuk certificates, they are tradable into the secondary market. Just like bonds, whenever the bondholder want to withdraw or convert the bond into cash, So they can sell that bond into the secondary market. So the same way, skooks, they are tradable in the secondary market, and the investors, they can take out their investment, and the new owner of that skook would be partial owner into that debt, asset, business or investment. And the skook is popularly known as Sharia compliant bond, whilst in actual fact it is an asset-backed trust certificate, because with that skook funds, an asset has been purchased or an asset has been manufactured. And in its simplest form, skook is a certificate evidencing ownership of an asset. So simply we can say skook is a certificate evidencing the ownership into a particular asset. And then skook structures rely on the creation of a special purpose vehicle. So the mechanism to sell the skook and to raise the funds, there is a company which is established by the originator, that we call that special purpose vehicle. Details of special purpose vehicle will be explained in the coming slides. And that special purpose vehicle would issue skook certificates which represent the ownership of an asset, entitlement to rental incomes, and the returns provided to skook holders thereof come in the form of profit from a sale, rental or a combination of both. And the skook could be based on mudarba, musharka, murabha, salam, istisna, ijara or hybrid of all. Just like in investment funds, where we can use the funds for equity purpose, for ijara purpose, for musharka, mudarba or murabha purpose, and there is a possibility to use a mixture of all these things. So just like in the same way, skook can be used for different purposes in the form of mudarba, musharka, and murabha, salam, istisna, and maybe mixture of all these, maybe combination of different, maybe musharka and mudarba, or maybe musharka or murabha, salam and istisna, in different combinations. And for each combination, income will be determined and it will be distributed among the skook holders. And the skooks, they can be sold in the secondary market. Skook securities are normally purchased and held by the investors. Most of the time, the investors into skook securities, they make such type of investments for longer time period, and as a result, little of the securities enter into the secondary market, because the investors, they hold the securities with them, and not many securities are traded into the market. That's why they are not known very much into the market, and they don't become a popular mode of investment into the market. Furthermore, only public skooks are available to enter this market, as they are listed on stock exchanges. Most of the time, the public skooks, where the companies or the corporations who raise the funds using the skook, they are listed into the stock market. Only that skooks, they are available in the market, and out of that as well, the investors, they hold it for a longer period of time. So very few skooks, they are available in the secondary market. Now there are skook certificates available, and how do we market them into the secondary markets? For example, if the skooks, they are shirka based and ijara skooks, so in this case, assets are created and the skook fund is the owner or the originator, or that special purpose vehicle is the owner of that type of assets. So against these assets, the securities or the skook certificates, they are the representative of the ownership of those assets, and they can be sold into the market depending upon the marketability and the potential of that assets. So the marketing is based on the market signals and forces. So if the people think that there is a potential into that investment, they might pay a higher price for the assets which are being represented in the form of ownership by the skook holders. Whereas in case of murabha, where there is no asset being owned by the fund, or in case of salam, where the price has been paid and asset is going to be received after some time, and in case of istisna, where the asset is going to be manufactured, skook representing a claim only, so can be negotiated only at the face value. So this type of skooks, they have a claim only. So this type of skook funds, they involve into such activities where the assets, they are not there, and even if they are there, they might be received in some future date, and as soon as they are received, they are sold to earn some profits. So in this case, there are claims only. So the skook holders, they are owners of those debt claims. So in that case, skooks can only be sold at their face value. They cannot be sold at a value more than their face value. And when the skook funds, they are used into different ventures, maybe based on musharka, mudarba, ijara, and there are tangible assets, and in case of salam, istisna, and murabha, there are no tangible assets available there. So in that case, there will be a mixture of different activities. So in that case, if the liquid assets are more than 50%, then these skooks cannot be traded more than their face value. But if the illiquid assets, they are more than 50%, so in that case, tangible assets, they are in abundance. So the skook certificates can be sold more than their face value, depending upon the potential of that investment. And the Islamic certificates of investment refer to a skook involve structuring of pool of Sharia compliant assets, and investors have an undivided interest in the underlying assets and are therefore entitled to share jointly the related returns, and could take place through application of various Sharia principles such as ijara, salam, musharka, mudarba, and mixed pools. So as the guiding principle of skook, we have already discussed them in different slides. So but we combine them here, that the skook certificates, they represent the ownership, a partial ownership into the debts, assets, investments, or businesses, and there can be different applications which should be Sharia compliant based on the modes of ijara, salam, istisna, and etc. And provision of credit enhancement or liquidity enhancement features. So this particular venture of this particular product, which we know as skook, it solves the liquidity problem of the businesses. For example, if a business want to have some liquidity, cheaper sources of finance, they can raise skook and they can solve their liquidity problems. And from the credit perspective, investors expect the skook issued to represent the same credit risk as that of the ultimate issuer or the guarantee or the guarantor. So in that case, the skook issuers, whatever is the risk with that company is the risk of the investors as well. So if the companies, they are credible, the skook issuers are credible, so there will be lesser risk for the investors. Now there are different advantages available for the skook issuers and the investors. So now let's see what are the advantages available to the issuer. So they can diversify their funding sources. For example, the companies or the businesses which issue skooks, they have their funding sources, maybe investment from different people, maybe investment from the partners, and so they can diversify their funding source. Now they can, instead of issuing bonds, now they have the facility to issue a replica of bond, a Sharia compliant instrument, and they can create and enhance profile in international market. So they can have the representativeness in different markets, not only in the domestic markets, but they can issue international skooks where the funds can be derived from the different countries. So the companies, they can be known into different forums of the world financial markets. And the pricing benchmark, the skooks, they can set the pricing benchmark, and also the secondary liquidity. And when the skooks, they have been issued, a liquidity problem can be solved. Other than different sources of liquidity, skooks provide a credible source of liquidity with low cost and a sizable financing. If the banks, they have to arrange finances from other sources, they have to meet certain requirements. But this is a forum. If the firms or the corporations, they qualify to issue skook, if they are able to issue skooks, and if they are allowed to issue skooks by the Securities and Exchange Commission of Pakistan in case of Pakistan, then they can raise a sizable amount of financing. And there is an ease of clearing and settlement because these instruments, they are tradable into the market. The investors, they can sell these instruments into the market, and there is ease of clearance just like any security in the conventional financial market. And then we have advantages for the investors as well. For example, the investors, they can diversify their investment. So they can enter investment into the schools into their portfolios. For example, if the investors, they have invested in real estate, if they have invested in stocks, now they can invest into schools as well. So it will diversify the risk as well, and the risk will be reduced and the returns will be sure. So the schools, they provide leveraging capabilities to the investors, and at the same time they provide secondary market liquidity. Whenever the investors, they want to withdraw their investment, they can sell the instrument into the market, and again ease of clearing and settlement. Just like for the issuer, the same facility is there with the investor as well, and the investment available to institutional and retail investors. So the people, they can make their investments to the institutions and to the retailers, and also it allows for many computation of risk, that is credit, market, duration, etc. So the duration is known, the credibility of that business is known, there is certain rating available by the rating agency, and the market value of that particular venture is also known. So it will all allow to determine the risk available into such transactions. And how the schools, they are issued. So there are certain factors to be considered while raising funds through schools. First of all, identify the investors. If there is a company, if there is a business, they want to raise a capital, so how they can raise capital? They have to identify their potential investors. So if their potential investors, they are domestic investors, or if they have to market their school into the international market and they have to derive their investment from the international financial markets, so they have to identify their investors, and then they have to get a rating for their company. So if there is a good rating for the issuers, for the businesses, those businesses, they can get better response from the market if the credit rating for that company is better. For the companies where the credit rating is poor, it is highly difficult for those companies to raise funds by selling Skook certificates. And then the nature of underlying assets. What are the assets? They are going to be the subject matter of that Skook financing. For example, if the Skooks, they are sold to make an investment into automobile sector, the investors, they might think that automobile sector has a potential and it can give them a better results, so they will invest into that. So the underlying asset is very much important for the marketability of the Skook certificates. And the secondary market consideration, that the Skook certificates should be easily saleable into the secondary market. If the investors, they want to withdraw their investment at any time, the potential of that Skook should be enough that it can be easily traded into the market. And applicable laws should be considered wherever the Skook issuer is situated. They have to take care of the domestic laws. For example, if the Skook issuing company is operating in Pakistan, in that case, Securities and Exchange Commission is regulating different procedures of these Skook issuances. So the laws must be taken care, the rules and regulations must be taken care. And another important factor that should be considered is the cost to the issuer. While going through all this process, what will be the cost to the issuer? That is printing of those Skook certificates, the underwriter's fee, different legal and other charges, the commissions of agents. So all these costs should be considered. And then drafting of legal documents. The legal documents should be drafted according to the rules and regulations of that region, and regulatory framework must be considered. So these are the important factors that should be considered by the issuer of the Skook. And what are the different parties which are involved into the issuance of Skook? First of all, the originator. Originator is actually a business or a government or any corporation or any sovereign entities. They want to raise funds. So they are actually the initial owners. They have that idea. They might want to purchase an asset, or they want to use an asset on an ijara basis and they can sell the asset to that firm, and then the same asset can be used as a leased asset by the originator company. And for the purpose of raising funds using Skook certificates, they need a special purpose vehicle. They need an interface. Special purpose vehicle doesn't mean any vehicle. Actually, it is a term used to facilitate a certain transaction. For example, if the originator want to raise funds using Skook certificates, so they will create an organization, they will create a company, a separate legal entity, which will be known as special purpose vehicle, and its name will be there. For example, the First Islamic Skook for WAPDA or a motorway Skook, that special purpose vehicle will be named and it will be registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission of Pakistan. So it is a subsidiary company. You might say that it is a subsidiary of the originator. So that SPV, that special purpose vehicle, will raise funds and it will get investments from the investors, and with those investments this SPV will purchase an asset and then it will lease the asset to the originator if it is an ijara contract. And then the investors, they are the subscribers. So we have studied three important parts here. The party, that is the initial owner, which is going to use the asset ultimately, or which is going to become the partner ultimately. And then the special purpose vehicle, which we can say as an interface between the originator and the investor. And then the subscribers. So here the parties are these, and this is only an interface. And then the companies, to raise these funds, they need an account. So there will be a bank involved into it, and the banks, they have another role also. Banks are other financial institutions. They provide the services of underwriters. They will guarantee the sale of these Skook securities, and then there are credit enhancement providers. There might be the hedges, the guarantees, and the takaful, etc. The other important parties, they are the merchant bankers. They might have the role as an underwriter, or they might be the investors into that particular venture, and they will be the buyers or the investors for those Skook certificates. And then the credit rating agency. This is very much important. The credit rating agencies, they will check the businesses of that particular business or the originator's business, and then they will issue a credit rating for that particular company. So if the rating is good, the potential of that company will be better, and they can easily raise funds by selling Skooks. And then there are legal and tax counsels. The issuers are the originators. They have to take care of all the legal issues and what the taxes involved into different stages, and ultimately the auditors. So to increase the credibility of that particular business venture, audit is very much important, and it is a requirement by the SECP that such companies, such ventures, they must be audited. Now let's discuss some of the key players. For example, the originator. Skook originators are mostly governments, also corporate firms. Governments, they need funding for their public ventures, might be for the infrastructure construction like roads, and to construct dams, to construct bridges, or for different public welfare projects. And then there are corporate firms, they need funding for their different ventures. And then high costs of rating, contract documentation, investment banking, and distribution fee. So these are different things which the originator has to take care. For example, the credit rating agencies, when they evaluate the rating of a particular business or a company, they have their fee, and it can be higher and it can be a significant amount. And the contract documentations, it should be prepared with the consultation of the lawyers, and the legal fee or the expenses involved can be higher. And then the investment banking and the distribution fee. So when the Skook certificates are being sold, the banks can be nominated, and the public can go to those banks and they can purchase the Skooks. So there can be service charges by those banks as well. And then Skook option is not attractive to most Islamic banks due to high proportion of short-term assets. So in case of Sukuk, Islamic banks, they may not be very much willing to invest into such activities because of the high proportion of short-term assets, because the ventures involved, they are not for a very long term, and if the ventures they are for longer time period, then there might be some attractions for the Islamic banks as well to invest into such Sukuk certificates. Another important key player in the Sukuk market is the investment banks. So investment banking, underwriting, lead managing and bookmaking services for Sukuk are provided by Islamic banks in cooperation with conventional banks having Islamic windows. So this type of services, that is investment banking, underwriting, lead management and bookmaking services for Sukuk, they are normally provided by the Islamic banks, and maybe with the combination of conventional banks, they are those conventional banks which are operating Islamic banking windows. And also the subscriber of these Sukuk are mostly central banks. So the investors into these Sukuk certificates or into these Sukuk ventures, they are the central banks, private sector Islamic banks or non-bank financial institutions. So these are the three main investors into such type of activities. And then Sukuks are held by the investors, resulting in absence of secondary market. So when the investors like the central banks, the private sector Islamic banks and non-bank financial institutions, they invest into these Sukuk ventures, they purchase the Sukuk certificates and then they will hold them for a longer time period. They will not trade them into the secondary market just like the bonds. So it means that there are lesser Sukuk certificates available for the investors into the market. And a wider class of investors is essential for active trading. So in case of active trading or for the popularity of these Sukuk certificates, a wider class of investor is required. More and more investors are required. So first of all, there are not so many Sukuk ventures available, and if they are available, so the investors, they hold their investments and the Sukuk certificates, they don't become popular among the public. And then we have some popular Sukuks, like different arrangements are there. When the Sukuk funds they are raised, finances are raised, then these finances can be used in different combinations. There might be a Murabha Sukuk, for example, the funds raised and they are used to purchase an asset and then it is sold on cost plus basis. So this is a process of direct structuring of securities wherein a special purpose vehicle invests the fund raised through the sale of Sukuk in Murabha operations. So under this arrangement, the originators, they make a special purpose vehicle to raise funds for a particular asset. For example, if there is an originator, the originator might be any company and they need a particular asset. So what they will do is, they will create a company. This company, let's say the investment company, and we call it a special purpose vehicle actually. This establishing a company to facilitate the Sukuk dealings, actually that is the phenomena of special purpose vehicle. So this company will sell the securities, Sukuk securities to the public, to the investors, and then the certificates are issued to the investors, and against these certificates cash is transferred to the special purpose vehicle. Now the special purpose vehicle, they will purchase the asset and they will give it back to the originator. So the asset is used by the originator at a cost. So that cost is paid back to the special purpose vehicle, maybe on the basis of installment, and these installments, they include the cost plus the profit. So that profit is distributed to the investors. When all the payments are made by the purchaser of that asset, the Sukuk ultimately finishes. And during that time period, these Sukuk certificates cannot be sold into the secondary market, because these Sukuk certificates, they represent a partial ownership into a debt. So they represent a debt, and debt cannot be sold at a discount or at a profit. And the other firm is Mudarba Sukuk. So Mudarba Sukuk is again one of the popular mode of Sukuks. So here the Mudarba certificates of or Sukuk represent projects or activities managed on Mudarba principle. So in the prospectus, it will be mentioned that what type of activities will be financed using these funds, and any of the partners or any other person is appointed as Mudarib for management of the business. So here there is an originator, there is a special purpose vehicle which is named with any company. Maybe like we had the word Dan Mudarba some times ago, which used to invest into the rice. Dan is the word we use for rice in Urdu. So for that Mudarba, the investors, they used to invest to purchase Sukuk securities, and the funds raised by the investors, they were collected at the special purpose vehicle, and then the originator, they provide their managerial services. So there can be a contract of Mudarba between the fund providers and the managers, and then they can appoint a third party as well, and they can share the profits according to the proportions agreed. And these Mudarba Sukuks, they entitle the holder's share into that specific project, and the Sukuk holder can transfer the ownership by selling the deeds in the securities market at his discretion, subject to certain rules. So now these certificates, they actually represent certain assets which are the subject matter of this Mudarba Sukuk contract. So here the certificates of Sukuk can be sold more than its face value, or depending upon the condition of that business, the price may be less than the face value. So it depends upon the marketability of these Sukuk certificates. And Mudarba Sukuks trading in the market, if the Mudarba capital is still in the form of money, so when the Sukuks have been sold and these funds, they have not been invested into different activities, not been invested into different tangible assets, so if that investment is still into the liquid form, then these Sukuk certificates should not be traded into the market, and if they are traded, they should be traded at their face value, not more, not less than the face value. And if the Mudarba capital is in the form of combination of different assets like cash, receivables, goods, real estate, and different benefits, so it means there are liquid assets, there are illiquid assets, there are tangible assets. So in that case, the tangible assets should be more than 50%, and also the price of that Sukuk certificate will be determined mutually according to the market perception in the secondary market. And there are certain concerns which should be addressed. For example, it is not permissible for the issuer to guarantee the capital of the Mudarba. The issuers, they cannot guarantee the capital of Mudarba. For example, the investors, they cannot be guaranteed that they will be returned back the face value of their securities, of their Sukuk securities. And then prospectus to the issue can contain a promise by a third party to donate a specific sum without any counter benefit to meet losses in a given project, provided such commitment is independent of the Mudarba contract. But there cannot be a guarantee or a surety by the issuer that investors' funds or the face value of the Sukuk will remain intact, but a third party guarantee can be added here into the contract, that in case of loss, or in case of capital loss, it will be paid by that third party. So this is this feature has been added into the Mudarba Sukuk, and this feature is actually part of all Mudarba contracts. All Sukuk contracts may be the Ijara, Mudarba, Musharaka, and there are certain concerns as well. We will discuss them in some later slides. Now we are going to discuss the most important and most popular Sukuk, which is known as Ijara Sukuk, or you can say Ijara bond. And a key technique to achieve capital protection without amounting to a loan is a binding promise to repurchase certain assets, for example, in the case of Sukuk al-Ijara by the issuer. Now here, the issuer, they have their assets with them, but still if they want to solve their liquidity problems, what they can do is they can create a company. They will name that company an independent legal entity which we call that as a special purpose vehicle, and that special purpose vehicle will generate funds by issuing Sukuk securities, Ijara Sukuk, and then these funds will be paid to the issuer and the title of the asset will be transferred to the special purpose vehicle. And the structure of this arrangement we will see in the next slide. So in the meantime, a rent is being paid which is often benchmarked to an interest rate like Kaibor, which is disliked by Sharia scholars. Now the Ijara Sukuks which are used to raise a fund, they represent a partial ownership into the asset which is purchased by the special purpose vehicle, and the rental of that asset which is being leased to the originator, that will determine the return of that Ijara Sukuk for the Sukuk holders, and expenses related to the corpus of the leased asset are the responsibility of the owner. Now the special purpose vehicle is the owner of that asset and the asset is leased to the originator, and at the end of the contract of maybe 4, 5, 6 or 7 years, whatever is the time period of that Sukuk agreement, at the end what is the salvage value or the remaining value of the asset is the asset of the special purpose vehicle, and it will be sold maybe to the originator or in the market, and then the sale proceeds will be distributed among the Sukuk holders. But what happens is that at the end of the contract, the salvage value would be much lesser than the price at the time the asset was purchased. Now the third party, which is again the originator, which is again the issuer which needed those funds, they will provide a guarantee that the investors into that Ijara fund will be paid according to the face value of that Sukuk. So this is a kind of controversy and we will discuss them in the later slides. So therefore, the expected return flow from such Sukuk may not be completely fixed and determined in advance. So in such type of investments, the investor's return may not be completely sure, and it can be determined according to the rentals agreement. Now this figure shows the transaction of an Ijara Sukuk, that in the beginning there is an issuer, that is the obligator as seller. So issuer actually wants to sell the asset which is in the ownership of the issuer, and that asset is sold to the special purpose vehicle, and then that special purpose vehicle leases that same asset to the same obligator, and it may be leased to a third party, but normally it is leased to the same obligator, which is the issuer as well. And then the same issuer pays the rentals. So let's see the sequence of the transaction. In the first place, title of the asset is given to the special purpose vehicle against a payment, and this payment comes from the Sukuk proceeds when the certificates are issued to the Sukuk holders, to the investors, and a cash is received. So that cash is paid to the issuer as a price of this asset. And at the third place, there is a lease agreement between the special purpose vehicle and the obligator, which is the same party. You can see here it is the same entity, and the same entity uses that asset on the basis of lease agreement. So the lease agreement is between the special purpose vehicle and the obligator, and at the fourth place, rentals are paid to the special purpose vehicle, and these rentals, they are transferred to the Sukuk holders as income against their investment. So these rentals, they might include the rental amount and the capital amount, which will at the end will substitute the ownership of the investors. So in this case, we see actually two type of contracts for the one asset, that is the same asset is leased out, and then from the same particular party, the issuer, the prices are also being paid, just like a hire and purchase contract. So what we do here is that we take it as a separate contract. So one is the contract between the special purpose vehicle and the obligator when the ownership is transferred against a payment from the funds which are created out of the Sukuk funds from the Sukuk holders, and then the asset is leased to a third party. So now the issuer is the same, but we can issue it to any third party, and then with that third party we can have a contract of rentals, that is lease payments, and then during the same time that party is purchasing the assets of that based on diminishing musharaka contract. So you can see here more than one contract between the same parties, so it might be a controversy here. So there is a group of people who oppose such type of arrangements, and what do they say we will see in the later slides. And in case of Ijara Sukuk, the subscription amounts are used to purchase assets like real estate, motor vehicle or other equipment for the purpose of leasing them out to the ultimate user, and that ultimate user might be the issuer himself or herself, and then the ownership of these assets remains with the fund, that is the manager of that fund, the special purpose vehicle, and ownership remains with that special purpose vehicle, and rentals are received against the use of that asset, and these rentals are the sources of income for the fund, which is distributed prorated to the subscribers, and each subscriber is given a certificate to evidence his subscription and to ensure his or her entitlement to the prorated share in the income. And the sukuk holders, they will have a prorated ownership into the asset, and also they will derive their income according to their proportion of investment into the total investment. And as the lessor can stipulate the rentals in advance, the rental on sukuk issue can be indicated in advance with possibility of very small variation that might be possible due to the payment of ownership related unpredictable expenses by the lessor or possibility of any default by the lessee. So in this kind of sukuk investments, the issuer, they can announce a percentage that this and this percentage will be given against the investment. So they can announce the return in percentage, but that can vary according to the situation. For example, if there is a damage to the asset, or if there is unpredictable expenses that occur later on, they might reduce the rental income. So the investors, they can be made sure that against their investment into that asset, this will be the rental income, and for that rental income, our percentage return can be determined for that investment. And these certificates may preferably be called sukuk, and sukuk represents the prorated ownership of their holders in the tangible assets of the fund, and they are fully negotiable and can be sold and purchased in the secondary market. So these type of sukuk securities, they can be sold into the secondary market because these sukuk certificates, they represent an asset, and the assets can be purchased and can be sold in the secondary market. And anyone who purchases this sukuk replaces the seller in the prorated ownership. So just like the selling of sukuk actually substitutes the owner. Just like in the stock market, when you sell your the shares you purchased, actually you are transferring the ownership into that particular business to another person. So just in the same way, when you sell the sukuk in the market, you are selling the ownership into that asset. And the price of the sukuk will be determined on the basis of market forces and are normally based on their profitability. So the profitability or the expected returns out of that venture, they determine their market value in the financial markets. So to summarize today's lecture, we studied the different concept of sukuk regarding the basics of the sukuks in the secondary market, the guiding principles, and the advantages of the sukuks not only to the issuer but to the investor, and also the parties involved into this transaction. And there are some popular sukuks like musharaka sukuk, mudarba sukuks, ijara sukuks. So we studied different popular sukuks as well. So this was all for today's lecture. We'll see you inshallah in the next lecture. Till then, Assalamu alaikum.